Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fintech Frenzy live stream. Today was PayPal earnings. Okay? So, what did we see? We saw pretty good quarter, double beat, okay? Saw EPS beat expectations, saw revenue beat expectations, saw the stock on that news grow 10%, okay? All is well. And then investors started to scroll, it got to guidance, and then sold off the stock to like down 5%. The people said, well, it's really predicated on the earnings call. This is what I had hopes for. And then earnings call came and stock dropped all the way to negative 8% on that news. So I want to talk to you guys about what I'm doing with my position now. It's smaller than it was a day before. Here's the thing. Let's go through some of the numbers. I want to show you some things. And I don't know if I should do this with their numbers or with mine, but yeah. Okay. Here's PayPal's guidance, and maybe I can just make this bigger for you guys. Goes back a little ways away. This was -2, by the way. I don't know why I didn't fill that out. Anyway, and merchant accounts I actually didn't get to see, and buy now pay later accounts, really disappointed they didn't update that. Anyway, those are the only three. Everything else, along with a ton of new information, which I actually haven't been able to plug in, we were able to track. Okay, and the stock looked like it had a great time. Okay, operating margin increased both on a GAAP and non-GAAP basis. EPS improved quite substantially. Now, if you look into the Q4 numbers versus the rest of the year, they're usually strong. Okay, so it's not just about the company's quarter-over-quarter numbers, but also year-over-year. It was an all-around good quarter. So, TPV was in there. The one thing that I actually stood out being pretty confrontational, not confrontational, against consensus, I can't think of another way to say it, was that transaction margin would flip. And in fact, it did invert. So Q3 2023 did actually bottom out. They did see a 0.4% recovery, whether that is holiday or not. The stock is being treated like this is only for Q4 and the rest of the quarter will be different. But historically, that's not actually true. It's kind of just been trending one direction. No holiday exceptions made. So pretty all right. Across the board, even whenever we look at expenses, nothing was too incredibly off. I mean, sales and marketing did climb. They saw 2 million accounts leave the platform, but they had already guided for that. They weren't expecting new accounts. The way I'm looking at it, whenever we look at total new accounts, there are 426. I honestly believe everyone should look at it to say they have 400 million accounts. Stop thinking they have more than 400 million. Those will drop off, and maybe potentially they can cut their losses at 415 or something like this and actually stop the bleeding. But there will be bleeding for some time. Okay, it was a bad way that they acquired customers. Although they consider them active accounts, I don't. So I still think that will continue to fall off as time goes on. But essentially, this was the quarter. This is what it looked like, all in this column right here. Operating margins improving, take rate improved, transaction take rate, transaction margin, all of it was very positive. Like Stephen Fiorillo said, he was really happy about that. Those are all the facts. I said this during the earnings call too, but I cannot understate it. And by the way, I'm sure I'm going to get attacked by a dog here. I apologize if that ends up happening. So anyway, yeah, it's happening. It's going to happen. With PayPal, what I realized is that everywhere where they could execute or where they could make a judgment call as a management really fell short. Okay. I didn't like how much they're guiding for in terms of Q1 or full year. nor do I like what they're doing with their own capital. Not only 5 billion, they said at least $5 billion of buybacks. But with new management, with turning around this cruise ship, I think it's time for them to really up their game and be more aggressive. Time to say, hey, $6 billion of buybacks or more, $8 billion of buybacks or more. This stock is so undervalued now. The more they continue to increase their earnings per share and lower share count in this way, and make all of these valuations even more impressive, for the stock to still sell off means that people are valuing this company less and less and less, right? Going against all of those things of buybacks, right? So those buybacks mean even more. So you're getting more out of your money from a shareholder perspective than what you would previously. And yet the stock continues to shrink. You have to be more aggressive. Cutting employees. At the time that they actually announced that was great, 2,500 employees. You're a company with almost 30,000 employees that does a lot more total payment volume than an Adyen or something like that, but not much more. Adyen probably does 1/3 the total payment volume that PayPal has, but they have like 1/9 the employee count. 1/9. Okay. Now they're a pretty tight-knit group, but it just goes to show you how much more efficiency could be made. And as AI and as all these new technologies are coming out, it's only going to allow them to increase their revenue per employee. So that's another thing that I am banking on, right? Their total payment volume increased 15% year over year. Digitalization of dollars is still at an incredibly high rate, even though PayPal might not even be the fastest growing company in terms of payment market share. Just because that area is so quickly growing, they're benefiting so much from that. And yet, I don't think management is nearly has the expertise to say what they need to say to make the stock go up. So whenever I think it was January 7th, somewhere along there, there's 6 innovations to increase the stock for PayPal. Well, increase the quality of their products. I shouldn't say increase the stock. Whenever that came out, they said, we're going to shock the world. And whether they meant that earnings call or, the products that they're going to be putting out over time, that is what people had locked in their mind. Expectations were set extremely high, and then they were proceeded to be not met. Now, it's almost like they completely flipped. And I want to talk to you guys about some different takes here. I thought that Spencer here, let me bring up his tweet. I'm sorry, I'm just bringing it up. I thought this was so great. I felt like now, he goes, no excitement, sounded robotic, almost like they were scared to present after the whole shock the world presentation. It's like they completely took the opposite approach. If I remember correctly, yeah, Crossroads also put here, he goes, yeah, that's our guess. They changed the whole tone and went completely on the under promise, over deliver. And they're taking two extremes of going, if we, that didn't work for us, so let's just have the numbers speak for themselves. In this quarter, the numbers did speak for themselves. But PayPal is still that cruise ship that needs to get turned around, in sandbagging your guidance to say 6 to 7% earnings growth, to show $1.17 on EPS, yet not explaining that is also encompassing of, stock-based compensation and these sorts of things. They're adding new things into what they consider non-GAAP, but yet not addressing that, instead putting it into footnotes. And so you're kind of showing people that, hey, the company right now is doing okay. The company going forward is not going to be as strong as it once was. But by the way, let me just state, okay, we have all these things in the pipeline that are going to do amazing things. We're going to completely reverse the company. We're going to put it all on a single platform, single reporting system for our merchants. It's going to become a very, very efficient place to buy and sell products from. 6 to 7% growth is what we're expecting. Where the heck does that add up? So this is what I'm doing. I'm not selling anything, because the real numbers, this is what being a fundamental analyst would do. Okay. Seeing the real numbers, which is what are the true facts, the company is undervalued, in my opinion. Whether or not management knows how to present that well enough, I'd lean that more towards the technical side. How do investors feel about the company? Yada, yada, yada. I don't want to see it that way, right? If I were to look at this company and not understand the share buybacks, I would have thought that the company or the stock price would have increased aside from guidance. But knowing that transactional margins had improved quarter over quarter, I would have said these are great signs for a turnaround company, regardless of what management has to say. What they're saying for guidance and what they're saying for all these different products and crap that they're putting out is their opinion. What's actually happening, the actual facts, are great statistics. And I believe that e-commerce and all of these things are great trends going forward, and that they will be, although maybe not the biggest slice of the pie, a beneficiary of that change to more digital spending and more online purchases. So knowing that they've increased their EPS, knowing that they're increasing their bottom line, is only going to put lower valuations on price to sales, price to earnings. And so this is actually a more efficient company from, last quarter to now. An extra 8% discount might even be a good buying opportunity for myself. But there is that emotional part. This is where I'm not buying. I'm not buying because Alex Chris, with his first earnings call, was extremely confident, said all the right things, and then continued that with showing great support on X and having great customer service. And all those are great feelings. But then the shock the world thing happened. And I think people got overexcited. That wasn't necessarily me. I mean, I do think Fastlane and single scan in with Face ID or tap to sign in. These things, the fact that PayPal's been growing so much and they haven't even had those slight modern solutions is ridiculous. If you're going to lower latency by 50% on the majority of the monthly active accounts that are logging onto the platform, that is going to have a serious impact. So I am a believer in it, but I'm not taking their word for these emotional plays on whether they decide to be more enthusiastic or to be more, under promise, over deliver. So I'm not going to play it at all. I'm holding the shares that I'm holding. I'm not going to be buying anymore at this level. If potentially it gets to $49 or something like this, I'll reconsider. It might get just too unbelievably, disgustingly low. But if you're sitting on the amount of cash that they're sitting on, I think it was at $17.3 billion, and you're saying, yeah, we'll do $5 billion or more in buybacks. Oh, and by the way, our technology spend is not really increasing that much. Sales and marketing is not really increasing that much. We have all this bloat. We want to cut other expenses. What the heck are you doing with your money? Are you going to sit on it forever? I think they should take all that money and put it into PayPal's high interest savings account. They get 4.35% or whatever. Jeez. Okay, I'll look at some chat now. I just need to get that out. And then if you guys want to talk about individual things that they did say in the earnings call, that's exciting too. Just because I'm looking over at my notes here, I did think that there was some parts of that earnings call where they did drop a couple information bombs that I thought was exciting. PPCP. It's also so funny whenever a stock is doing good versus doing bad. People kind of just pick apart a company just because it's doing bad, right? Like any other time, PPCP would have been a perfect name. But whenever the stock's down 8%, I was seeing comments like, why call it PPCP? What a stupid name. It's just funny how people can, change their mind depending on what's happening in the market. But so they said PayPal Complete Payments is their small to mid-sized business product that they're coming out with. It's essentially Braintree, but actually labeled and then offered to small businesses. They said there's a $750 billion total addressable market, and we have a much faster adoption with a new go-to-market strategy. I want to see that actually play out. But, they said these are our two biggest areas of incremental margin growth is international and small mid-sized business. That's 100% true. Everywhere I'm seeing that's the case, right? In fact, whenever you look at an Adyen, for example, which is actually having harder times, Worldline, for example, where are these companies really having troubles? Well, Europe is seeing sort of a harder time because growth had been slowing, and they even named Braintree as taking a lot of that growth away from them. But they said the margins are so high here that the only place next to go is North America, which, be damned, has a ton of total payment volume, but the margins are actually so much lower, right? You're even competing with like Chase Payment Tech, like JP Morgan Chase has a payments company. But the margins are so low because they say, hey, if you bank with us, if you bring all your business over here, we'll actually, transact your payments for free. We will do it at a complete loss if you bank with us completely. So it's really hard to compete in this region versus over in Europe. But that's where PayPal needs to go. They already have a large market there, but they need to grow it, right? Braintree going over to Europe is a very new venture. They've dominated in North America, and they're not the only player. I don't want to make it seem like that. But they have seen a lot of growth here, especially with the larger enterprises. Whenever you're taking these larger enterprises, though, you either better have one of two things, and especially in a very high interest rate environment, you better have a lot of cost savings. So they're taking a lot of market share, but at the price of real margin growth. So that all happened, or at least started, the wave had started under the old management, Dan Schulman. Then Alex Chriss took over and he said, we are not charging enough for Braintree, and that we actually believe that there will be quite the large amount of margin expansion. That's perfectly fine. I hope that happens. But do you have the products necessary to actually charge a higher margin? Potentially they do. That could be the case for why transaction margins had actually accelerated slightly quarter over quarter. They could have started this back in 2023 and potentially are seeing and reaping the benefits from that. That, or it's just, checkout or branded checkout, the actual PayPal checkout button is just growing as a percentage of total, total revenue. So all in all, I thought it was great. I don't like management strategy at all, at least whenever communicating with shareholders. I do actually think they know what they're doing if they are saying that, hey, they're not trying to do anything special. They are trying to make a slimmer business and focus on small business and international. That's, if I was a payments company, which I'm aware I'm absolutely not, and I'm not, I don't know the intricacies of a payments business, nor do I have the expertise and knowledge that Alex Chriss does. But I do know margins are much higher. And if you're chasing incremental margin growth, that's the place to be. That's what they're talking about. They're not talking about doing anything that I think would be silly. It's just a matter of communicating that. Just freaking sucked. I agree. Hard to invest when the tone of voice goes from confident and transparent to intentionally sounding unrealistically skeptical. Which one is it? Feeding into the doubt to prove it wrong later. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Someone put a comment in the earnings call I thought was so funny. They said, Alexa Chris. Like, yeah, he just sounded like a robot. It was completely different than the first earnings call. And I really do think he's just trying to adapt and learn this new role that he has to fill in. But it's like, man. Tanner's going to take Alex Chris's job. Timing was impeccable. Yeah, I come and bash him here, and all I'm doing is gathering votes. I'm gathering shareholder votes. What would I buy right now for long-term hold? So I have the largest. I own all three. My largest position out of all three of these is Tesla, then SoFi, and then PayPal. Much lower, and much lower as of today as well. I haven't actually started buying Tesla just yet. I might start nibbling at it soon, but right now, I mean, the only company that I've bought in any recent history has been SoFi. So I would say for the long term, SoFi. I always buy for long term. So everyone said this too. All the remarks for earnings calls are always pre-recorded. Up until Q&A actually starts, those are always pre-recorded. So people were like bashing. I've like, they do that all the time. I got no problem with that. Amit, man, I'm going live for 9 hours. Congratulations, buddy. Dude, I kept jumping in there to watch the stream. That was unbelievable. The fact that you're still on YouTube is blowing my mind. Have a rest. He's also keeping PayPal. Are you adding to your PayPal though? Is the exciting part? All right, cool. Amit's gonna join for 2 minutes. Give me the quick scoop. Bear with me. There we go. PayPal did better than I thought. Yeah, literally on just quarterly numbers, that was really exciting. That was really exciting. And then it was all the stuff that they said that turned it away. Guidance, buybacks, all their own personal decisions just sucked. Amit, how you doing, buddy?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
I love the audio in the background, this like calming elevator music while the stock's tanking 7%. It's just
I love it. Honestly, you know what I find? It keeps me so on point with my train of thought.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I was just listening to you and Steve talk on your stream. I got to the part where Steve started,
Going off.
anything. Yeah. At one point you were like, "So what are you mad about?" And Steve's like, "I don't remember." Like, all right.
He said he got to a part in the earnings call where he screamed and almost swerved off the road.
Yeah, I was just on the
phone. He was driving and listening. Man,
I don't think this was a bad quarter. I think it was a really bad call, but I think the street is overreacting, down 7%. It'll probably fall a little bit more tomorrow, but I won't be surprised if this thing's back at 65 in like a month or 2 months.
Yeah, like do you think Alex Chris is the man we still need? I mean, we saw what was happening on Twitter and things were getting pretty exciting from a customer service perspective. Like I thought what happened with Kelly was like unbelievable. I was like, man, he's making serious change. And he might actually be a great operator and just maybe not a great presenter at all because what they said was
I agree. I don't think he's a good presenter. He sounded uninspired, but this is a guy who took Intuit up 2,000% over the course of 19 years. And he was not just a middle-level employee. He was like a senior executive. He actually played a pivotal role in the stock doing well and growth happening for the stock to do well. I just think he sounded uninspired. He didn't care. But I don't know if it's enough to be like, the thesis is broken. The 5 billion buybacks is awesome. I wish they had a little bit more. But I don't know. Like, do you feel that it deserves to be down as much as it's down after? I don't feel like that. I think it's an overreaction.
No, I think that potentially that it's been plateaued so long that people are looking for a reason to sell and weak guidance. They're like, you know what? I'm cutting my losses here. But yeah, I think it actually kind of made me upset after a while because I feel like I can tell where Alex Chris has been focused and it's been on all these innovations, fast lane and all this stuff. And so any question, they were like, hey, so, are you looking into international expansion? And he'd bring up these fast lane products and quick checkout. They'd ask him about Braintree and he'd talk about fast lane and quick checkout. And I'm like, man, so clearly that's all you're focusing on right now.
It was very confusing. And then there was this like robo lady or something, this AI bot that was talking for an hour or what felt like a year. Oh, that's what she is. The CMO, the chief marketing officer, was
No,
sounded like
CFO. The Jamie Miller was who that
dude.
kind of flatlined voice was.
It was really weird, and I don't understand if you're the new CEO of a company. Like, all these upgrades on Wall Street happen after the earnings call. Everyone can read the numbers, and the numbers were good. I think all of us here can acknowledge the numbers weren't phenomenal, but they definitely weren't sell it off 7%. That's why I think it went up 10% immediately. And then maybe the guidance hit the street and things got bad there. But I did not think that they deserved to be down 7%. But after hearing him talk, I could understand how someone just is like, I want to trust Anthony Noto versus Alex Chris, or I want to bet on Alex Karp versus Alex Chris, right? And so, yeah.
So
I
let me ask you a question. Do you think if PayPal is trying to make big moves, they're trying to utilize AI to deal with all of their massive data moat because they transact 25% of all of e-commerce, does PayPal need Palantir to win?
I mean, that would be a hell of a client if they got Palantir. No, dude, this company generates so much cash. This company is they're going to grow. If on most DCF models, if you look at how you get to $62 or $55, you're pricing in 0% growth till 2033. You're pricing in the same free cash flow of 4.4 billion till 2033. If those numbers change and they buy back almost 10% of the company, I don't think it's as complicated as needing AIP. It's not like this is a simple company. They take transactions off payments. That's it.
Yeah, so, I think if you're going to turn around this cruise ship, I think that some level of craziness that we might see from an Elon Musk or something needed to happen. Either go in and wipe out way more than 2,500 employees. You know what I mean? Wipe out a ton. Make it like almost go to a point of breaking it to then you can always fix it later, sort of thing. Or, I mean, put a huge amount of share buybacks. Why say at least 5 billion? I know that they're like, oh, well, put at least, then put 6, put 7, like show investors that there's some sort of accelerating amount of, shareholder return here, because I don't know. I just thought that was silly.
Here's my question to you. Do you think when you got SMCI running up 150%, NVIDIA up 40%, and then ARM up 20%, that fintech becomes a sector, if it doesn't perform in the next 6 months, that people take their money out of it and they probably FOMO into the semis? Do you think that has the potential to happen over the next 6 months?
I mean, people can FOMO into the semis, but that's exactly what that would be. It would be a fear of missing out, trying to catch a wave and not understanding what you're buying. And my biggest holding right now is NVIDIA. I love it, but I'm looking at a time to trim, not a time to add. I'm probably going to do a trim here soon because I'm just getting like, things are getting overly enthusiastic. And I think that fintech, you have to have a belief that this is the way that, money's going to continue to move digitally, and with high interest rates that potentially there's not a lot of new players here. There's not a lot of new innovation. Companies can't grow the way that they used to. There's not a big startup culture right now. That will return, I think that even a 6-month time frame is just it's too small. I think that I've never given up on fintech. I'm always early, and I'm never a good timer. I need to call up Chris Patel or Jesse Dow to go, hey, is this the right time? I mean, I've got the idea. Just let me know when to pull the trigger.
I agree with you, dude. I think money will probably rotate out of fintech into chasing stuff, but it will be chasing. Like if you miss the SMCI run, if you miss the NVIDIA run, like those companies are probably still undervalued given the growth, whatever. But like at this point, it's getting weird, especially if the S&P takes a pullback. Those companies are not going to get those same valuations. So I got to go. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think this was a bad earnings. I think this was a bad call. Alex Chris sounded like the most uninspired CEO of a new company that's taking over. And I felt like the analysts also could get the vibe that he just wasn't ready to like do it. He kept talking about the innovations. He kept saying the word innovation, and it pissed me off because I'm like, it's not that innovative. This should have happened years ago, but he kept saying it. And I think we got to give him time to execute. I think he's probably a better an operator than
Man,
Speaker.
the truth is there's not a whole lot of innovation to be done, especially from PayPal. I'll leave it to the Stripes, to the Adyens, to the Apples, to the many other companies before I think that PayPal is going to revolutionize commerce. What they mean by revolutionize commerce is, a single tap to sign in or scan facial ID, just doing other things that companies have already done, but to the biggest audience in the world, which I still think is important. There's still a ton of alpha there, but you're not like you set the bar too high, for what it really was. Anyway, man, I won't keep you. Appreciate you jumping on. Let's do this again sometime. Yeah. Maybe we can set aside an hour or something to just go over and
just talk.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Robinhood, SoFi. After earnings season, we'll just talk about everything.
Yeah, man. I got a firm tomorrow, so I don't know if you're looking into that one, but
all right. Good stuff. Talk to you later. Enjoy the show. Bye.
See you, bud. I love him, man. He's a really good dude. Okay. Yeah, I think, but that's kind of scary though, too, is like, he's made that pretty clear already that this is not a top 10 CEO by any means. I think he's at least maybe I'm pulling the trigger too quick, but 2 earnings calls, a product video. I think it's pretty clear to see this is no Mark Benioff, Like and subscribe. Okay. Now, let's quickly see if there's some more news. Okay, so for people who are interested, 2 things. One, Brad Gerstner from Altimeter Capital had said before this earnings call that they had taken a stake in PayPal stock. I want to read to you guys this tweet because it's really important, especially after the day that we just had. This, by the way, same guy that had found a pretty encouraging buy whenever Meta was under $100, wrote a letter directly to Mark Zuckerberg saying, you need to turn some crap around because obviously you're focused too much on innovation for things like, the metaverse and your VR headset, when really there's still a major advertising business that you can go after, and you need to tighten the belt a little bit. Anyway, yes, we own a small stake in PayPal. Encouraged by recent strong comments from Alex Chris, that's his thing. But Frida, which was one of their employees, critiques below stand. They were pretty critical about this company. Anyway, I won't get into that just yet. They said, as owners, we have 15 plus year track record of calling it as we see it. Whether we become bigger investors in PayPal depends on how convinced we become that management and the board are truly committed to getting fit. For real change, it is hard, but there's no doubt that flatter is faster and simpler is better. One thing we will not do is stick around and try to change the board or management if they lack the commitment. We are not activists. There are enormous opportunities with iconic founders, CEOs, and boards who truly want to partner and win championships. And we will choose them rather than waste our time trying to do things others lack the energy and commitment to do themselves. 100%. This is actually the way, especially after this earnings call, of how I feel. Alex Chris has something great that he could do, but this is not a die on the hill position for me. If they don't shift it around over the next 6 months, like I'll give them 2 more quarters. And Neil said it best. I'm just taking his quote here, but 2 more quarters would probably give you enough credentials or enough track record to see 4 quarters out of Alex Chris if he doesn't start putting up things that we really see, and not about innovation and all these new products that are into the future that we can't even guide for. I mean, real numbers, real change, real consumer behavior switches, people starting to use PayPal more often, transactional margins starting to improve, Braintree taking market share in different geographies, truthfully showing off your wins. If that doesn't happen, this is a goodbye buy stock. Not going to happen. But that's That's why we make speculative positions, right? Some win, some don't. This could still be a winner, but we're not sure. Spencer, I don't even know if you saw my friend, but you were in this video earlier on, so you can go back and check that out. Get rid of that mustache quickly? No. I run a little crappy thing down here, and then I run this, and I'm good. That's me. That's what I do. So no. Now, as an outro, I'm put back on the music because I do me, baby. And the FinTech Frenzy, also, other piece of news, SoFi and Zelle information. Bender 9000, the best source of information for SoFi content, had actually come out and said that Zelle will soon be available on SoFi. He found some data, but that it'll only be accessible to members that have direct deposit. So further pushing that direct deposit information. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Appreciate your time. But bye for now.